Welcome to the Monday episode of Arch City Sports. I'm your host, AJ Nance, and this episode is a little different than the reaction shows that we do throughout the week, and we have not had enough of these episodes actually in these past couple weeks and months, and I look forward to producing more of these next few weeks and further on throughout the rest of spring and summer, even beyond that. But in this Monday episode, how this looks, if you're new here, we're going to cover everything here in St. Louis, from the Cardinals starting spring training, the Blues off to a hot start coming back from the Four Nations tournament, St. Louis City with their first game, the home opener versus Colorado, a 0-0 game, and that one. But there is a couple things to take away from that. The SLU Billikens men's basketball team, a big win versus Rhode Island, and kind of entering that, what Coach Schertz was called, let me get it here, their new season is what he referred to it as, these next week and a half, 2 weeks before conference tournament begins, and all the March Madness festivities, and then also a little bit of high school basketball in this one. I know I haven't produced enough of that content in full episodes recently, but we're going to cover a couple games that stood out to me from this past week from the boys side in this one. But a lot to cover in this one, so I'm going to stop yapping. I will say, though, like this video on YouTube, subscribe if you're over there on YouTube as well. Follow and rate the podcast on Spotify and Amazon Music if you were listening over there. And then a quick word here from our sponsor before we dive into everything. This episode is sponsored by Shoot 360 St. Louis. Shoot 360 St. Louis is a high-tech basketball training facility featuring the same shooting technology utilized by all the NBA teams, combined with excellent coaching. Unlock your game at Shoot 360 St. Louis. Register for a free 1-hour workout by downloading the Shoot 360 mobile app, or visit www.shoot360stl.com. So yeah, go check out Shoot 360 St. Louis on Instagram at Shoot360STL, and then also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Arch City Sports for daily St. Louis sports content. As I mentioned, a lot to cover in this episode. We're going to start with the St. Louis Cardinals, who are now in Jupiter, Florida at spring training. It's already that time, which is kind of not really registered with me yet. This is very exciting, even though there's not huge expectations for the Cardinals this year. There's a lot to keep track of and a lot of young players to keep an eye on that could be, the potential future for a very good team down the line. So a lot to keep an eye on this year. Obviously, all the Arenado trade rumors as well. Definitely interesting stuff. They have played now 2 games so far in spring training. They played on, I believe it was Friday or Saturday. Should have been Saturday, yeah. A 7-6 loss versus the Miami Marlins. There's a couple good things that we saw in this one, though. As a whole, the offense only had 3 hits, so you don't love to see that. And there were several of our everyday starters in that one. Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, Nootbaar, Arenado, Walker, Gorman. They were all in the lineup. Herrera as well. But there on the pitching side, there was a couple things that looked very promising, even though it's obviously as early as you can get into the season in spring here. But Matthew Liberatore looked really dominant in his 2 innings of work, 2 perfect innings. Riley O'Brien strikes out the side in his inning of work. And then Eric Fetty, who started the game, Ryan Fernandez, and Chris Roycroft, all with a scoreless inning in this one. So really like to see that. Fernandez and Roycroft could be big arms in the bullpen. Definitely Fernandez, but potentially Roycroft as well. We'll see. He's kind of hovering between AAA and the majors to enter into this spring training season. The bad in this one, Bailey Horn, who we just got from the Red Sox this past offseason, and Matt Swanson, who a relief pitcher who spent a lot of time in Double-A last year, a guy that I believe has big-time potential down the line as a reliever at the major league level for the Cardinals. Actually got him in a trade a couple of years ago for Paul DeYoung. Horn and Swanson in this one gave up 6 earned runs combined out of the 7 given up. So 7-6 loss. I'm not really worried about wins and losses in the spring. I mean, a couple of years ago, I believe it was 2 years ago now, we had the best record in all of spring, won the spring training title or whatever it's called, and then came out and, we were like 3-14 or something ridiculous to start the year. So I am not diving too much into this, this wins and losses. I'm more of the player development and seeing what guys are at early, and then further in the spring to see what we have going into the actual season. The game on Sunday was another loss, 11-6 versus the Astros. Another game where there was a lot of good things actually on the offensive side and pitching side, a lot of good in this one. Miles Michaelis started with 2 scoreless innings. He looked solid. Gave up a couple hits. I believe he had no strikeouts in this one, 1 walk. Velocity was in the 92 to 94 range, sat around 93 the majority of the time. His off-speed stuff looks solid. So 2 scoreless innings there, but the star of the day was Cardinals prospect Tekoa Roby, who these last couple of years have dealt with injury, and we got him. And I have to look back at it, actually. It was in one of the trades, whether it be the Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty with the Orioles, or I don't believe it was the deal with Paul DeYoung. It was one of those 3 deals. I believe we got him in that Texas deal for Jordan Montgomery, but Tekoa Roby, 2 perfect innings and 3 strikeouts to go along with that. Tekoa was sitting 97, 98 with his fastball, and I saw a couple people tweet it out, is this the future Cardinals closer? And that might be the case. I'm not going to jump the gun yet. We obviously still have Ryan Helsley here, and who knows what his future looks like here in St. Louis. But Tekoa Roby looked electric, and hopefully this is just the beginning of a lot of great production this spring and then throughout the season, and we'll see where he even ends up, potentially at the major league level at some point this year. We'll see. Again, don't want to jump the gun on Tekoa, but really, really impressive performance there to start spring training for Tekoa. Jojo Romero, a big reliever for the Cardinals from last year. He loaded the bases in his inning of work and then struck out the side, walked a couple. I believe there was a bloop single to start it or something like that, and then he looked dominant for the next 3 guys. So that's a prime, perfect example of what spring training is. Some guys are working through stuff, maybe, working on a certain pitch. I thought he threw a lot of sliders, it seemed like Jojo did. He also threw a couple changeups, which I don't remember him using a whole lot last year. His issue last year was that he wasn't very good against right-handed hitters. I believe the left-handed hitters batted like 170 with only 1 homer throughout the entire year against him. So throwing him against a couple righties today, and I think that might be the plan the rest of the spring, and seeing what he's doing against righties, because obviously that slider and elevated fastball was really nice against lefties last year, and I don't think that's going to change going into this season. So good to see JoJo kind of lock in and strike out the side to get out of that inning. And then to end this one, Ryan Ludus pitched 1 inning, struck out a couple. He's another guy that had a cup of coffee for the Cardinals at the major league level last year, and then spent a lot of time in AAA with pretty solid numbers, and is also one of those swing guys that I think right now he's on the outside looking in, but he could find his way up here, if there was an injury or two to any one of our bullpen arms. On the offensive side, there was several good things that happened with a huge standout performance, and we'll get to that in one second here. But Victor Scott, early in this one with a 2-out, 2 RBI single with the bases loaded. Victor Scott, a guy that's on the top 5 of must-watch Cardinals this spring, to see what we have in him going into the 2025 season. Really good to see him get a 2-out, 2 RBI single in this one. RJ Yeager, 2 for 2, spent a lot of time at AA. I believe he spent a little time in AAA at the very end of last season. He went 2 for 2 with a single, and then he homered in the 9th inning in this one. He is known for his double and homer power, just not a whole lot of else, especially getting on base and making more contact. That type of thing has been something he's been really, I think, working on this offseason. Hopefully going to see more throughout this season, but a lot of power there with RJ, and he displayed it in this one with a homer in the 9th inning. Sem Robersa, I didn't mention this. This was the bad part of this day in spring training in Jupiter. Sem Robersa, 2/3 in innings pitched, a guy that, again, also one of those trade pieces that we got in that Jordan Montgomery, Jack Flaherty, Paul DeYoung trio of trades that happened in that same little stretch of the middle of the season a couple of years ago. Sem, 2/3 innings pitched, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, and he did something that's kind of weird that's only allowed in spring training, obviously, is he actually pitched, got taken out middle of the inning, and then came back later in the game to pitch again and got lit up again. So a tough performance for Robersa, but a lot of potential there, as obviously showed it these last couple of years in the minor league system that he's got the stuff. It's just putting it all together, and so this is definitely a learning moment and learning curve for him. But interesting scenario, putting him back out there after he got lit up the first time. And then last but not least, the star performance of the day, J.J. Wetherholt. Yes, the 7th overall pick from the Cardinals last year, getting some at bats in spring training. Obviously, he's going to probably spend most of the year, I would assume, in Double-A, is where he'll probably start, maybe even start in Peoria. We'll see. But JJ with a single, and when his second at bat today, he flew out to center field in his first at bat, singled in his second at bat, but the third at bat was an absolute bomb, opposite field with 2 guys on base, a 3-run shot for JJ Wetherholt. Absolutely love to see that, and it was a smooth swing. If you haven't seen the video of it, make sure to go find a clip of it, because JJ, that looked pretty natural, and that's a shortstop we're talking about. Very, very impressive swing on that ball to drive it to left field, and had a really nice sound off the bat. So love seeing that from JJ Wetherholt. Hopefully more to see from him throughout this spring training, because he could ideally be your partner up the middle with Mason Wynn for the next 10 years. So he's a must-watch guy, one of the must-watch guys throughout the Cardinals organization throughout the entire season this year, and definitely I believe he's now listed as the number 1 prospect in the entire system. So JJ, love to see you start off spring training red hot, and hopefully he can build off that the rest of this spring. The next game for the Cardinals, they have Monday off. Tuesday, Quinn Matthews, we get to see him for the first time this spring versus Max Scherzer. Is this a future Hall of Famer versus future Hall of Famer, or am I jumping the gun too quickly on Quinn Matthews? We'll see. Quinn has got a lot of hype coming into this spring from his performances last year at the Double-A and Triple-A level, and obviously will most likely spend the beginning of the season and potentially majority of the season at the Triple-A level, but definitely excited to see what he can do at spring training this time of year. So very excited for that Tuesday matchup to see how he does against the Blue Jays and Max Scherzer. That's going to stop it here. That's going to wrap it up here, rather, for the Cardinals. Let's stop it here for the Cardinals section. Let's transition into the Blues, where we're not going to spend a whole lot of time because we did dive into all of that throughout our last 2 reaction shows to the Winnipeg Jets matchup, but also the Colorado Avalanche matchup. So go check out those episodes if you have not already on YouTube, Spotify, or Amazon Music. But a shootout loss on Saturday night versus the Winnipeg Jets, first game back from the Four Nations tournament break, and then a regulation 3-1 victory and a hard-fought victory on Sunday evening at 5 o'clock versus the Avalanche, kind of an earlier start, and getting Monday off and then have the Kraken at home on Tuesday, a very winnable game as well. Getting 3 of the 4 potential points in these last 2 games is almost ideal. I don't want to say completely ideal, because we did have many chances to get both points in that Jets matchup, and we just could not get the job done against, right now, the best team in all of hockey record-wise. I think Capitals maybe have 1 point above them from the East, but in the West, the Jets are top dog, and they obviously showed it that we have to put them away or they will find a way to win, and they did that exactly with Kyle Connor in the shootout. But what I've seen these last 2 games is a complete group effort and carried momentum from Jordan Binnington and Colton Parayko from their win in the Four Nations tournament for Team Canada. They have carried that hype and momentum, and guys having a couple weeks off here, they look fresh and spry, and I think the entire team is building off that Team Canada win right now. Robert Thomas looks really fresh and smooth. Pavel Buchnevich, last 2 games, a couple of his best games of the year. And guys like Justin Falk on the back end, offensively and defensively, right now is a completely different player than what we've seen all year long from Justin Falk. So love to see all these guys playing fresh, and just it's a lively group right now. All 4 lines are rolling out, are playing heavy hockey, and we saw that it was a complete 60-minute effort. That last, bottom 2 lines aren't going to score a lot for you. The WTF line with Walker, Foxa, and Toropchenko, and then you have the third line with Bolduc, Matthew Joseph, and Sundqvist. Those lines are not going to score a lot for you, but they are going to do everything else for you when it comes to defensively or the dirty work or scrapping a little bit. Nathan Walker with his 4th fight of the season in this one versus the Avs. Those lines are going to do all that type of dirty work for you. Can you get enough production out of the top 2 lines to kind of keep it in your favor? And these last 2 games we've had that with multiple goals produced by the top two lines. So absolutely love to see that. Want to see these guys stay fresh the rest of the season and build off what we have going right now, because getting 3 of the last 4 points, potential points with these 2 games versus 2 elite teams. I think we caught the Avalanche at the right time with McCarr, Taves, and McKinnon all playing in the Four Nations tournament, really heavy minutes, and then coming and playing the Predators and the night before this one, and then playing obviously against us the second night of a back-to-back. There was a lot of ice time for those 3 guys, and they did not look very fresh, and they looked kind of sluggish in this one, and I think it obviously played to our advantage, but I don't think it was just because they were tired. I thought we defended them extremely well, so love to see that. Love to see how we're playing right now. There's a different vibe in the city as well, and it's a fun time right now. We'll see what the rest of the season looks like. We have about 6 to 7 points still to make up behind. I believe it's Calgary and Utah and Vancouver. So big week ahead with the Seattle Kraken on Tuesday. Very winnable game, as I mentioned. The Washington Capitals on Thursday, a top 2 team in all of hockey, best team in the East right now, which has been one of the biggest shocks in all of hockey this year. And then have on Saturday night at home versus the Los Angeles Kings, another very solid team. So big week for us. Cannot, look at that Kraken game. Right now I'm looking at it as a kind of a trap game, because you're already looking ahead to the Capitals and Kings. We have to take advantage of that, take seriously rather that Kraken game, because I know they're not very good this year, and they've had a lot of talks with the trade deadline coming up about guys moving. It's not a very good team whatsoever. We should be able to beat them, but we do not need to be looking ahead at the other 2 tough matchups later in the week, and let Seattle come home at in our building with Schwartz and Dunn and get a win on our home ice. So need to take advantage take advantage of that game on Tuesday. That should be a must win, and then build off that. But really like what I see right now from the entire group. All 4 lines we were rolling out are really nice. The defensive pairings have been playing really well, and it's a different defensive group with Justin Falk playing at this level. It really is. I mean, Broberg has slowed down, but he's still a great player. Parayko's been having a career year, his 13th goal versus the Avalanche. Cam Fowler's been a great addition. Yeah, he's obviously slowed down his point total that he started with us, a couple of goals right off the jump, but he's obviously slowed down. But it adds a whole nother element if you have Justin Falk playing at an elite level on both ends, and that's what he's been these last 2 games. So let's see if he can build off that, and maybe he's finally healthy this year. We'll see. Let's move into the St. Louis City soccer team here in St. Louis. St. Louis City with their home opener, an electric atmosphere on Saturday night versus Colorado. And even though it was a 0-0 draw on this one, no scoring, even though we thought we had Simon Betcher with his first goal of the year, that ended up being taken away because of an offsides penalty. We outshot Colorado 17-2 in this one. I believe the expected goals gave us a couple, and we should have easily won this match. So that's kind of disappointing to only get 1 point out of the potential 3 that we could have gotten and probably should have gotten in this one. 0 saves for Roman Berkey, and that pretty much sums it all up. He had no pressure all night. It was a very cold temperature night for this game, so I think that might have had an impact on Colorado maybe a little bit. But even us, we didn't have a extraordinary amount of scoring chances, but we had a lot of shots on nets, and they didn't have to. There was a couple big time saves actually by the Colorado goaltender, but in this one, or goalkeeper in this one. But I thought overall our game defensively was really, really good in this one. We absolutely gave them 0 chances to score. As I said, Roman Berkey did not have to make a single save in this one. So that kind of sums that all up. There was 1 goal, and I actually had this game on the side when the Blues, and there was a bunch of games on Saturday night that were going on. And I had this one on the side, and I did see we hit the post at one point, and I believe it was Leuven that hit the post. Betcher had obviously that goal I just mentioned being taken away as well. So we had a couple chances there to score. Defensively, one guy that really stood out to me was Tomas Totland. I thought Totland was really, really smooth in delivering the ball, and defensively was really solid on the back end as well. So obviously disappointing not to get all 3 points in this one. There's not a whole lot to cover with this one, obviously, with it no scoring being involved at all, and no controversial action at all. But disappointing to not get all 3 points, but definitely okay with at least getting 1 point to start the year. If you're Colorado, you have to feel very nice with at least getting 1 point in this one, because there was, when you look at all the expected stats in this one, we should have easily came out with a victory in this one. So 0-0 draw in this one. Our next match is March 1st, so this upcoming Saturday in San Diego at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. So make sure to tune into that one for that late night Saturday matchup for St. Louis City. Let's move into now the St. Louis Billikens, who are now 15-12 on the year after an 81-66 victory versus the Rhode Island. I don't even know what their mascot is for Rhode Island. But Rhode Island, who is a very solid basketball team, 17-8, I believe 17-9 now on the season. I believe only 6-8 in conference play. But they're a really good team with a top 3 scorer in the conference over there as well. And we completely shut him down. I believe he had only 6 points on the evening. It was just like how the Blues have been playing right now, a full team effort for the entire 40 minutes. And I mentioned this at the very beginning of this episode, that Coach Schertz described this as the new fresh start season for the Billikens. We only have about a week left, 4 or 5 games left, then the conference tournament, and then we'll see what happens in there. If we make a deep run and potentially win it, we could find ourselves in the big dance, which would be awesome. As of right now, we're obviously looking from the outside in. There's a 0% chance that we're making it in our standings, at the status that we have right now. But you win the conference tournament, you're obviously in it. I think the biggest thing these next week and a half, 2 weeks, is finding ourselves in that top 4 in the A10 so we can get that double bye in the conference tournament in Brooklyn. That would be big time, and we're sitting, I believe, a game and a half or a game back right now. But teams coming up that, if we beat them, we'll be in a good spot, especially Dayton in a couple weeks here, or I guess this upcoming week, 2 weeks from now. So I thought this was, versus Rhode Island, one of our best team performances all year. Obviously, Robbie did his thing. I believe it was like 22, 9 and 6 or whatever he had. Jimerson adding in a double-double, 20-point double-double. Swope did not have his best game, but the bench guys were phenomenal. Amari McCautry with 13 points. Dylan Warlick didn't score a whole lot, but did a lot of the little, little glue guy things that you need from your bench. And Max Picard was really solid as well in his limited time on the court. So loved what I saw from the bench guys in this one. A full team effort and a big 15-point victory in a game that we never trailed. And actually led this game by 20 at one point. Rhode Island kept it close throughout, but we never trailed in this one. So full team effort, great start after a week off. A week full of practices, and then you come in and play a really solid Rhode Island team and get a big win on your home floor. Hopefully we can build off this momentum, just like what the Blues are doing right now. So I see a lot of similarities between both teams right now. Next up, we have Davidson on Tuesday at Davidson, then at home versus Loyola Chicago on Saturday. I will be there for that game. So 2 big games this week. Obviously need to win both of them. Our favorite in both of them, so got to take care of business and build off this Rhode Island game that we just had. Last but not least, we have a couple minutes left here. Let's get into some high school basketball. 3 games that stood out to me this week. My top 3 games. The first one, Principia winning over John Burroughs on the boys' side, 75-62. Huge matchup with obviously several players at the with Division I potential and Division I talks already. Division I guys for Principia and John Burroughs. Quentin Coleman was a star in this one. I believe it was 34 points. There's a video that I'm going to post, a clip on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure to go follow us over there to check that out. But Quentin Coleman with a 30-plus point performance, and then right after that announced that he actually got an offer from SLU. So absolutely love to see that from the sophomore, one of the best sophomores in the area, and a very strong sophomore class. Rockwood Summit with a win over Clayton, 64-63 on a buzzer beater from the corner to win it from Will Sander. Absolutely love to see that. That's why you absolutely love high school basketball. You just never know, and college basketball as well. Basketball in general, you just never know. Those type of things happen, and it was kind of a ball bouncing around play. He gets into the corner and knocks it down, kind of fading in the corner as well. So tough shot from Will Sander, and big win for Summit in that one. And then my third game of the week, this is in no order, by the way, but Webster Groves with an upset victory, even though they have two of the best players in all of the country, honestly, for their draft class, for their high school class. Webster Groves with a massive win over Chaminade, which is playing a ridiculously hard schedule throughout the year, but have a loaded roster there at Chaminade. A 72-71 victory behind 43 points from Scotty Atkinson. I made a video on Scotty the other day. That dude is the real deal. He's the truth, and he's only a sophomore, just like Quentin Coleman and Will Powers and other great sophomores in the area. So a lot to keep an eye on these next couple of years from those sophomores. And shout out Principia for their win over John Burroughs. Shout out Summit for their win over Clayton. Shout out Webster Groves for a massive win over Chaminade in this one. For more high school basketball coverage, I will be covering more on the Friday episode from any games throughout this week from the boys and girls side. But for any type of player profiles or videos on Instagram and TikTok, make sure to go follow over there at Arch City Sports. I post a lot of high school basketball content over there. Not just that, though. Obviously, we're breaking down Cardinals player predictions right now. I have a whole list of videos we're coming out with this week on social media. So go follow on Instagram, go follow on TikTok, like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well if you're over there listening or viewing right now. Follow the podcast on Spotify or Amazon Music if you're listening over there. Rate the podcast as well. A 5-star would really help boost this podcast a little bit more in the charts and get us a little more out there. But I'm AJ Nance, and I thank you guys for listening to this Monday episode of Arch City Sports. A lot covered in this one really quickly. It was only 27, 28-minute episode, but a lot more in St. Louis throughout this week and even going into the summer and beyond with the Cardinals and everything, the Blues coming down to the end and the Billikens and all that. So lock in with us here at Arch City Sports, and I will bring all the coverage for everything. And this was fun. Thank you guys for hopefully enjoying this Monday episode. I definitely enjoyed it on this end. And I will see you guys throughout the week for Blues reaction shows, Billiken reaction shows, but also Friday for the full episode just like this one. So everybody have a great week, and make sure to tune into those reaction shows throughout the week.